Well, this week, New Brunswick announced that it had hit a population of 800,000 residents, and recently Nova Scotia crossed the 1 million mark. Governments in all maritime provinces have ambitious goals to grow their populations through immigration. This evening's guest knows something about moving to this region, the challenges and the rewards. It's probably easier to list the things James Mullinger doesn't do. He's a comedian, a magazine editor, a filmmaker. He just published his memoir called Brit or Living the Canadian Dream, and he joins us from his home in New Brunswick. Oh, I should mention that you were just named one of Atlantic Canada's Immigrants of the Year.
Indeed, a massive honour, considering how many amazing people have moved here. And there was a few of us honoured, of course, and they were all far more impressive than me, but I was happy to squeeze in there.
You have not been very quiet about just how proud you are to be a new Canadian, and talking about your your journey to this country. And I'm interested to know what some of the oddities perhaps are in moving to the Maritimes from outside the country.
Excellent question, and I think as a comedian, it's a dream scenario, because of course, I mean, a comedian's job is to notice things, and really, performing and living and working in the country that I was born in, there's not many things to notice. But coming to a new place, especially the Maritimes, where there are so many different ways of doing things, it's a different way of life. Coming here as a fish out of water has creatively been a dream. But I mean, having to get used to things like the concept of homemade wine. I mean, this doesn't exist in England outside of prisons. It's simply something that people do if they're doing a life stretch. But coming here and discovering that you go to people's houses and they're offering you something that was not made with grapes or fields or skills and just cooked up in a basement, that was a big surprise.
What, honestly, maybe on a little more serious note, what can maritime governments and maritimers in general do to attract more people and keep them here? Because we know we need them to fill vacancies in any number of skilled positions.
Yeah, it's an excellent question. And I can honestly say that in my 8 years here, I mean, I have been extremely impressed with the ways that the respective governments of all four Atlantic provinces have supported immigrants. But I think the real key is the people here. It's the people that keep us here. I really have never come across a more welcoming place. And this is the thing that I love so much about this region, is that I came here, I didn't know anyone, I had no contacts. Lots of people, specifically comedians back home, told me that I couldn't move to Atlantic Canada and continue my comedy career. And the only reason I've been able to do that and start a print magazine and indeed sustain it and build and grow those businesses is simply the support of Atlantic Canadians. And I think that however immigrants find our way here, and of course I'm well aware of my immense privilege in being able to kind of choose to come here, also coming here and speaking the language. But I have obviously many friends that have found different ways here and have come here either as refugees or for other reasons. But the one thing that we all have in common, and the one thing that we all agree on, is the welcoming nature of Atlantic Canadians is second to none. And I think that's the thing that keeps us here, and the thing that helps us grow.
You're a comedian and you're an author now. We talked about the book, but you're also in many ways a small business person. And we know that people who come to this country, immigrants, do very well at running their own businesses and growing a prosperous business. Why do you think that is?
Excellent question. I mean, I think it's the same. I mean, again, I think government support, both locally and federally and provincially. I mean, those things, and I don't just mean financial. I mean, get people getting behind what you're doing and being vocal about supporting it. But again, it does come back to the people. It comes back to when I said I wanted to start, a print magazine out of my home in New Brunswick that was going to be sold nationally and indeed eventually globally, which it now is. Promoting the Atlantic region, there are some people that you would expect to say that we were mad, and maybe it certainly sounded that way. But overwhelmingly, what people wanted to do was support us, help us get it out there, and I think that is the secret weapon that we have here. Is everyone kind of jokes about Atlantic Canadians and their friendliness and their kindness and their warm-heartedness, but it really does it transcends so many things, and when it comes to business, and regardless of whether you are where you're coming from in the world, whether you're setting up a coffee shop and I mean a perfect example is you look at, we had one of the best chocolate makers in the world here in Ganong chocolates, one of the greatest chocolates in the world. And then now, thanks to immigration and thanks to the amazing refugee program, we have Tariq Haddad's Peace by Chocolates, another of the greatest chocolate makers in the world, also in the Maritimes. We can have all these amazing things thanks to a combination of people that have always been here and people that are new here.
I've got about a minute left, James. I'm wondering, the Maritimes, now your home, it's also a great source for material, but does it travel? I mean, we just got back from Ottawa, a lot of Maritimers there, of course, but I know you've played in the UK, you still do some writing for publications like Esquire in Great Britain. When you take this stuff on the road, does it connect?
Good question. I mean, I guess what I've always liked to do with my stand-up shows is make them very specific to where I am. So I'm very heavily into research. So at the weekend, as you say, I was in Ottawa, then I was in Cornwall and Pembroke. You know, I arrive early, I do my research. No two shows are the same. Obviously, my stand-up show now is kind of completely embedded in a love for Atlantic Canada, and those parts of it that do translate nationally and globally, I take with me. And then the bits that don't, I change. So every show is different. So even if I'm performing in Miramichi or Gander or whether I'm in Georgetown, PEI, the shows are specific to that place. So I've always all I want to do is make people laugh and have a great night out. And that is what I basically work tirelessly to make happen.
You're a bit of an improv person here, so I'll throw this at you. I couldn't have a comedian on without asking him about the recent developments we saw at the Oscars. As a comedian, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, I mean, simply, I think, the question as to the appropriateness of jokes, I think, is kind of not necessarily... I stand on this the same way I stand on anything, which is that everyone, whether they are a journalist, a performing artist, a frontline worker, everyone has the right to do their job without fear of assault. And really, that's my take on it. That... Yeah.
Okay. Look, before we go ahead. Let's plug what you're up to. Where can people find the rundown of where you're going to be performing?
Far too shy to plug my own things, but since you insist, my website, jamesmullinger.com, has my full tour schedule for this year. I'm back on the road. All the shows that are postponed from the past 2 years are now happening. I'm performing all across the country, British Columbia. I have a huge show happening at the Kingsbury Amphitheatre in St Andrews, and my memoir is out in a couple of weeks.
Just happen to have that right next to you. Author, comedian, bon vivant, James Mullinger. He does it all, and he talks to us here, and we appreciate that. We'll speak again.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you very much.
We will take a quick time out and be back on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
What do you think, Willow? Is it good? Yeah, was that good? Oh, okay. What do you think, Hans?
That was amazing.
Immune support made with
We love the